There are some conversations that I tend to have fairly often in my work with clients. And more recently, I've had a few more conversations, not just with clients, but with people even in my personal life, and some conversations I've seen online that I thought might be helpful for us to talk about today. Welcome. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Thank you for joining me. You've probably heard me talk about gratitude, probably, possibly many times. And I talk about it because it is such an important part of healing. And it is also a practice, a concept that can create difficulty for a lot of people. And that is something I've talked about a little bit before, but within that difficulty, it can end up bringing up quite a few different things. And I want to talk a little bit about some of those things today and maybe help you reconnect with what really matters for you in the practice of gratitude and along this journey. Hopefully, I remember all of that. So, first of all, gratitude is really important for healing, for really emotional and psychological well-being, because it helps us connect with a felt sense of not just the good things in our life or the things that we have that are important in our life, but it helps shift the belief of being unworthy, of being undeserving or not good enough. When we practice gratitude in a healthy way, we basically are retraining our nervous system. We're rewiring our brain to recognize that in the midst of everything that you've lived through and growing up and experiencing this kind of living in fight or flight and being really aware of the things that aren't going well or may not go well, being able to connect with gratitude in a genuine way helps you recognize the truth that there are things in your life that are positive. There are things that you are doing that you can feel good about. There are experiences that you have that aren't hurtful, maybe neutral, but sometimes actually positive. But because we're in this just trying to survive mode, we easily miss all of those things. Or we chalk it up to somebody just being nice or being lucky. And then we often struggle with, because we don't feel like we deserve it, then we struggle when we feel bad. So practicing gratitude intentionally, feeling a felt sense of connection to that sense of appreciation, that is an important part of being able to believe in yourself, in your worthiness, and the possibility of the kinds of things that you want in your life. So a challenge can come from a few different things, but one thing in particular, one of the challenges is being able to recognize things that you can appreciate. But it can sometimes bring up a sense of not being deserving of that thing. Like if you get a promotion, for example, at work, and you struggle with self-doubt, on one hand, you might say, I am really grateful to get this promotion. But because that belief is there, and maybe you're not as practiced with gratitude yet, when you feel into that sense of gratitude, the survival stuff kicks in and wants to hold you back from feeling too much of that good thing. And I've talked about why that happens before. But so when it does that, it can depending on where you are in this journey, sometimes or often, that sense of gratitude can sometimes then bring up, I don't really deserve this. I didn't earn it. Somebody else deserves it more. And that can happen in really all areas of our life. I know that was one of the things that I kind of struggled with when I was in particular getting my master's degree, for a variety of reasons, but I did fairly well in my master's program, and really questioned it quite often. So I was grateful that I was doing well, grateful that I was enjoying the majority of my classes, and yet still kind of not believing that I deserved to be doing well. And so when that kicks in, that self-protective part that's saying, hold on here, it can lead to a lot of different types of thoughts that kind of, because those are the things you actually believe, they end up outweighing that moment of gratitude. And that's part of the reason why a regular gratitude practice is so important. So you really get in the habit and your mind starts to shift how it can perceive and experience something. Because when you continue to practice it and nothing bad happens, then you get to feel like there could be a sense of safety in experiencing that sense of gratitude. So when let me go on to this part first. So part of what has been kind of coming up is that, or more frequently, I guess I should say, is that there's a lot of stuff happening, right, in the world, in our own communities, in our own lives, but certainly in the world, there's a lot of really, really bad things happening. People are really experiencing a lot of devastation. And one of the things that we tend to do as humans, but especially as survivors, I think, is compare ourselves to other people. And when there are people that we are aware of, whether we know them personally or we're just aware of them, we can sometimes feel guilty about their suffering and feel like appreciating something good in our life, feel like it's wrong. It can reinforce being unworthy. It can bring up guilt because something in your life is going well, and look at everything that's going on around us. And that belief underlying the idea that it's wrong to appreciate that, or it's wrong to experience it because there's so many bad things happening. So one of the things that we do with this healing journey is recognize that we have the ability, and it's important to be able to hold two, sometimes more, but two different things at the same time, opposing things. And that comes up a lot in black and white thinking. And with this, it's important because we can feel a sense of appreciation for what we have in our life. Even if it's just a moment of reprieve from something, or that promotion, or a good relationship, or laughter, or the birth of a child, or whatever it may be, we can feel a sense of appreciation for that in whatever way that may look. And we can also hold the reality and whatever feelings go along with that of the fact that there are a lot of people suffering right now, and always have been in some ways. But we're certainly in a period where there is so much collective devastation and suffering. So practicing holding both things is really important. And how we speak about that when we're working on that is also incredibly important. So, and it's a practice. So staying mindful of connecting with something in your life, and it could be something so small, a moment to yourself, um, sleeping better, feeling good about the way that you fueled your body that day. And that doesn't mean that you ate completely healthy. It doesn't mean that you restricted. It just means that maybe you ate. Maybe you chose some options that you know will help fuel you, even when you've chosen some things that just make you feel good. That can be something to feel good about. And certainly there can be bigger moments that you appreciate. But the small moments, like the feel of the sun on your skin, uh, assuming that it's done in a healthy way, um, the pleasure of that morning cup of coffee or tea, um, how it feels to hold it in your hand, how your favorite food tastes or smells to you. Those little things can make a huge difference. Of course, there's also really big things, but taking moments to feel that, and if it's related to something that you're drinking or smelling or eating, really recalling what that is like, or touching something, squeezing a pillow, and when you're just kind of trying to get to sleep and you're squeezing that pillow and the comfort that it gives. There's so many small things that we can connect with. We can hold that and honor and acknowledge the reality. And some of that might even be your own life. So feeling a sense of appreciation for something and also acknowledging that it's a hard time, or that you're feeling really stressed about this thing, or I'm really grateful that I feel better today and I'm still hurting. Both of those things can be present at the same time. And practicing allowing both of those things to be present at the same time is an important part of healing, because there's often times in our life in which there are seemingly opposing things happening, whether it's within us or in our own life or in the world. And one of the things that comes up quite often is that idea where people will say, I should feel more grateful because look how bad it could be. Or when I feel a sense of gratitude for um, connecting with this person and laughing today, I feel really bad because there are so many people that are really struggling. And taking away your laughter, your appreciation, your joy is not going to benefit anybody or anything. When you are in a place where you are connected to laughter and joy and appreciation, when you're connected to that, it gives you more energy for other things and people. When you're connected to that, you show up differently. And when I say show up, I don't mean you're doing things for people or you're caretaking for people necessarily at all. What I'm referring to is just how you show up in the world. So, an interaction with a stranger, when you just look at them, if you're feeling good, relatively good, you're more likely to look at a stranger. If you're really struggling, if you're feeling bad because things are, or you've got something good in your life, you might look away. You might look down because you feel bad. You feel guilty. You might even feel ashamed. But when you can look at a stranger as you pass by them, that acknowledgement in that moment to that person might mean way more than you think. And you might even recognize that from your own experience. How we show up makes a difference for us. It makes a difference for others. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that we have an obligation to do this so that we can show up differently for others. This is purely about recognizing that connecting to your sense of appreciation doesn't help, or staying connected to that can be beneficial just in how you show up in the world. Denying that or avoiding that does not benefit in any way anybody else. You connecting to appreciation for small things, if you're sharing that with anybody, can help them recognize that maybe there are some things, even in the midst of some not great things happening, there might be some things that they can recognize that help them see that for themselves too, which can help them recognize that maybe not absolutely everything is really bad. And all of that, again, is a really important part of the practice in healing. While this isn't necessarily directly connected, it is something that has come up a little bit. So I want to address it because there is a connection here. Another kind of way that this can show up is that, and people have a hard time admitting this, and I think it's really unfortunate. The idea of being envious of somebody, and it might be somebody that you know, but oftentimes it isn't necessarily somebody that you know, but you can feel envious for so many different things, really tiny, again, things that might seem insignificant, to really big things. Envy is not necessarily a healthy emotion, but it is a very normal emotion. And one of the things that tends to happen for people is if they feel a sense of envy, they feel bad about that because they feel like, I've heard people say that when they're envious of something that somebody else is achieving or that they have or that they've experienced, that they feel like they're not happy for that person or that they're somehow diminishing that experience for that person. And that isn't the reality. Now, obviously, if you were to say something negative to that person, that would be different. But just experiencing that emotion of envy is not taking away from that person. People will often also think that being envious of somebody else is bad and wrong because they should just feel grateful for what they have. And so no matter the circumstance, whether it's related to envy or not, when we feel like we should be grateful for something and we're not feeling that sense of gratitude, this is an unhealthy way to experience gratitude. If we force that gratitude, like, okay, I have this and I should be grateful for this, and so I'm just really grateful that I have this. If you're not really feeling it, it's creating separation from the thing that you potentially could be grateful for, and it's reinforcing that there's something wrong with you, that you're bad, that you're ungrateful, that you're therefore undeserving of this thing, and certainly anything that you might envy for somebody else. So practicing gratitude in an unhealthy way means that it's kind of performative, that it's something you should do, it's something you should be grateful for. And if you're forcing it, it's not going to be beneficial to you because you don't feel the truth of it. So if you've got something in your life, let's say you, I don't know, got the promotion, let's just go back to that. And you're not necessarily feeling gratitude for it. Maybe you're anxious about it. Maybe you feel like you don't deserve it. Maybe you're worried about the extra pressure. Maybe you're even feeling Like you want to be happy about it, but maybe somebody close to you in your life is not going to celebrate with you in the way that you'd like or deserve. So there can be a lot that can get in the way of being able to experience gratitude for something. And again, even something that you've accomplished, or it could be something that you've experienced that you might feel grateful for. If you're not really feeling it and you try to force it, it's going to kind of exacerbate some of those other things. So what you can do is try to create a regular practice where you sit down, and I would encourage you to write pen and paper. If the only way you will do it is on your phone or your computer or whatever, then that's better than not doing it. But writing, there's a difference, and energetically, it makes a difference. So if you can actually write, but have a practice, try to do it around the same time every day, making it part of your routine. But sitting down every day and writing 3 things is a good place to start. And if that feels really difficult to you, just 1. Where you write down something that you can actually feel a sense of appreciation for. So even if there's something really big that happened in your day or your life, but you're not really feeling it, don't write it. Write something that you can feel internally relieved by, peaceful about, happy about, joyful about, but even something that just you can recognize brings peace or clarity, something like that. So if you are somebody who is healthy, relatively healthy, and are not limited by any sort of injuries or disabilities or illnesses, is that something that you can recognize and feel some sort of a sense of appreciation for? Like how you're able to do the things that you need to do in the day, or that you're not feeling particularly bad, or you're not feeling a lot of pain. Is that something that you can recognize and know how maybe difficult it would be, or how it would be to be in that pain for yourself? I'm not talking about other people, I'm not comparing to anybody else. But if you have the ability to kind of move about your day in a relatively easeful way, is that something that you can feel appreciative of, in recognizing that if there was an illness or an injury or something that prevented you from doing that, what that would mean to you? So maybe that's something that you can be appreciative of. Maybe if you've been in a climate that's been very cold and the sun is shining and you can feel the warmth of the sun or see the sun, is that something that you can recognize that feels better than when it's really cold, or you're feeling just the really cold air on your skin, or the wet, cold air? Is that something that you can feel appreciative of? Can you feel appreciative of the fact that maybe somebody reached out to you to say hi, even if it might have created a little bit of challenge for you because you weren't sure how to respond because you're having a difficult day? Does it feel good? Can you connect to it feeling good? Can you connect to this sense of feeling a sense of connection with this person that reached out? So again, it doesn't have to be all positive, right? That example, there's some difficulty there, but there's also potentially some positive there. We have the capacity to hold more than one thing at one time. And if that sense of envy is coming up, I want to just touch on that for a second. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up for feeling that sense of envy. That is again, normal emotion, maybe not the healthiest, but it is normal. And so if you are finding that you're feeling envious of something, you can hold that and feel appreciative for maybe it's something totally unrelated, or maybe there's an aspect of that that you might be able to recognize you have as well. And that can sometimes be really important because, again, we tend to miss, ignore, rationalize the things that we do have in our life that can be good, that can be positive or fulfilling. But because we don't believe we deserve it, because maybe it wasn't everything that we wanted, we can so easily dismiss it and believe that it doesn't matter, it's a fluke, whatever. And that's sometimes where envy can be a little bit more present in our life because we're not able to really take in those other things. So a regular practice of connecting to just the small things. Certainly, if there's something big that you can connect to, absolutely identify that. If there's more than 3 things, absolutely write more than 3 things. And it is okay. It is more than okay if you write basically the same 3 things every single day. It really is. That is how my gratitude practice started. I was basically writing the same things. And if you followed me for any length of time, you already know that. I was grateful for health, mine, and sometimes I would separate it out depending on what I could connect with. Sometimes I would connect, or I would put, I'm grateful we're healthy, and we meant me, my husband, and my kids. So sometimes I would lump that in one, but if the day was a little bit more challenging, I might separate it out. And in that separating out, I would connect very intentionally and specifically to the health of each person that I was identifying. So, like separating out my kids, being really grateful for each child's health and what that meant. But so often health was a big part of that. And I had gotten in a car accident and had a neck and shoulder injury. I don't remember at what part in my gratitude practice. I think that might have been a little later after I started it. So I was in quite a bit of pain for a while, but then being able to recognize that I had a better day than I did the day before. And so I would recognize that. And that made a huge difference for me because the pain was pretty constant for a while. And I had a lot of headaches. And so some days I would still maybe have some pain, but it was better. Maybe the headache wasn't nearly as bad, or maybe I didn't even have much of a headache that day. And so I would connect with that. And it took some practice, but I'd be able to recognize that the pain is still there. So holding this one thing, so not ignoring that, not pretending that everything was fine, acknowledging that, and also being able to acknowledge that my headache wasn't as bad, and connecting with the reality of what that meant. Not only did I feel better, but how did that help me feel throughout my day? How did that help me connect with other people? So feeling, again, the small thing, and every day doing your best to identify at least 3 things. And this is important all the time, but it's especially important when we are in a time where there is a lot of difficulty going on within our own lives or within our communities. In part because we do compare so frequently. And we can get so easily caught up in all the difficult things that are going on, and there are a lot. In my last video, I talked about pulling back a little bit from the frequency of posting these videos because my mind is so occupied with everything else. And with that, part of what I am working on is also connecting to not just the gratitude in my own life, but also connecting with the gratitude that I have in doing this work and what it means to be here with you and what it means to be able to be on the journey with my individual clients and be a part of this community, feeling the gratitude for that while also recognizing the chaos and the destruction everywhere else. Taking the time for gratitude when the world is falling apart. It's not about, and this is really important, it's not to avoid, it's not to rationalize in any way. It is creating space so that all of the difficult, stressful, bad stuff isn't the only thing that we are experiencing. And along this healing journey, just even under pretty good circumstances, sometimes connecting to those small things can be really challenging. And that's partly why they can make such a difference. So allowing yourself to connect to that without comparing to the difficulty that so many people are experiencing, and maybe even you're experiencing in some ways, that is an important part of the practice. It's an important part of being able to stay emotionally well when things are really difficult. So I'd love for you to share, is gratitude something you've been practicing? Has it been a little bit more challenging with everything going on around us? And maybe even consider sharing something just as you're watching this, what came up for you that you might be able to feel a sense of appreciation for. And a reminder too that that sense of appreciation can be something about you, something that you accomplished, something that you can feel proud of, something that you can just feel good about experiencing or doing in your day, something small. I'd love for you to share in the comments. Thanks so much for being here. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.